Welcome back, everyone. Before I introduce the next Create instructor that I've interviewed, I want to thank all of the instructors and all of the faculty members, as well as all of the students that have participated in the Spring Quilt Festival. It has been such a great time to work with you all, and I've met a lot of great people, and I just feel like overall the comments I got is that everybody's having a great time, and that just makes me so happy. So now on to my interview with the Create DIY instructor, wool artist, Laura Berlage, but right after this message.
Welcome, quilters! We hope you've been enjoying the new online Quilt Fest experience. Why OLQF is free and open to the public, the team at Mancuso Show Management have put countless hours into getting everything just right. To help keep the online Quilt Fest and, when the time is right, our in-person events up and running, we are asking for a suggested admission of just $10. We've placed a link to our suggested admission page right here in the description of this video. You are free to leave more if desired, but we truly appreciate anything you can send. Thank you so much for being here with us, and we hope you are staying safe and healthy while enjoying online Quilt Fest.
As I mentioned before, Laura Berlage is one of our Create DIY instructors who will be teaching a workshop that's painting with wool upcoming in June. The show is June 10th through the 12th. I think you'll really enjoy this workshop. Laura actually works on her century-old family homestead, which is a farm that's right outside Hayward, Wisconsin. She loves working with many beautiful natural materials from her farm, especially the wool from her sheep. She has completed her master's in fine arts in interdisciplinary arts at the Goddard College, and since then has been teaching textile arts. I hope that you enjoy this interview. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Diana. How
Great.
are you?
I'm good. Happy that spring has sprung, so we can spend a little more time outside rather than, hunker down inside.
Yes, absolutely. Earlier today, we were planting first crop radishes and second crop spinach in the high tunnel. And starting next week is lambing season on the farm. So it really feels like springtime.
Awesome. So where are you Zooming from today?
I'm tuning in from my family's homestead farm east of Hayward, Wisconsin. So we're in the northern part of Wisconsin, tucked within the boundaries of the Chequamegon National Forest. So it's a very wild, woodsy type of area. And the farm has been in our family since 1968.
Oh, that's amazing. So other than you do vegetables and wool, what other types of things do you have on the farm?
Oh my goodness. Well, the farm is almost 250 acres, and we have chickens and turkeys and ducks. We have about 85 sheep and a couple guard donkeys and a horse, and we have an aquaponics greenhouse with tilapia fish and fresh produce that grows all year. And that helps feed our CSA program. So we have about 3 acres in gardens and orchards, and we have hay. And where I'm at today is our Farmstead Creamery and Cafe. I'm upstairs in the fiber loft, which is my happy place. But also downstairs, we have our dairy where we make gelato and cheese with our sheep's milk, and all kinds of exciting things happen.
Oh my gosh, that sounds absolutely amazing. I wish that I wasn't, half across the country from you. I would totally be bringing my kids to your farm this weekend. Do you take a lot of visitors?
Certainly pre-COVID, we did.
Yes.
Of course, the whole world is different right now. But thank goodness for things like video and creative ways that we can stay connected, stay sharing and learning.
That's awesome. Yeah. Zooming has, opened up a lot of opportunities, specifically for us for teaching. But why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Absolutely. So I am a interdisciplinary artist, definitely a fiber enthusiast. And I got started when I was little. At least by the time I was 8, my mom had a crochet hook in my hand, and I was inventing things for my stuffed animals to wear. And I learned to sew from my mom and my grandmother. Grandma grew up on a small farm in central Illinois as a kid. And of course, back then they made a lot of things themselves because it was the Great Depression. So those skills were passed down. And then in 1997, I was just transitioning from Montessori school to homeschooling in more of a Montessori unschool or kinder style. And my mom, who's a family physician, was championing the homeschool project. And she's like, okay, I can do science, I can do math, and we're going to read a lot, and I will find you some art teachers. So she was constantly watching different catalogs that were coming in, especially we were in Madison at the time, the Madison area technical colleges enrichment classes. And Fran Potter was offering Navajo tapestry weaving. And we had lived a year in Arizona when I was 11, and I became very interested in that type of imagery and tradition. She said, is that something that would interest you? And I said, yes. I was just turning 13. So we had to get like special permission from the school, and we had to meet with Fran. And that kicked off this 5.5-year essentially intensive apprenticeship with this master weaver, and just fell in love with tapestry technique. And it's been a big root of my practice. And having sheep, having yarn is perfect, but also we make roving with our wool. And I can show you what that's like if that's an unfamiliar product. It's been cleaned and carded, but it's still very soft, not yet spun into yarn.
And then do you dye it there as well?
The mill dyes it for me. I work with a dye artist. And so I send my swatches. And then when it comes back, it's like Christmas, because it's like, how did that turn out? Or, ooh, yummy, yummy. Look at that one. So fast forward from 1997 to 2017. And it's one of the very first vacations from the farm my sister and I are taking. It's in January. And one of our clients who has a lake home here, their main home is in Colorado. And they had said, anytime you want to get away, you can stay at our place. And they had horses, and it's going to be very fun. And Kara, who's my sister, had found a cheese making intensive she wanted to take. And Wisconsin, I like cheese, but making cheese is not my thing. So I'll be your taste tester anytime. And I was looking around for other fun things to do. And there was a yarn shop in Boulder that was having a class in needle felting. I was like, oh, goody, something I've always wanted to do, but never had a chance to learn yet. But it had a funny title, Voodoo Love Zombies.
That is a funny title.
I mean, I know it's Boulder, but I called the yarn shop and I said, okay, I'm looking at this class, but can you tell me what I would be getting into if I was going to sign up for something called Voodoo Love Zombies? And the lady laughed. She says, okay, you're making a critter with a big head. So you learn how to make a ball. That will be the head. Do some wire armature work. And that will be the arms and legs. And if it turns out wonky, just call it a zombie. I'm like, okay, I think I can handle this.
That makes sense. That's pretty cool.
So I looked up the instructor, and one of the things that she does is she makes needle felted characters and dioramas that she then photographs for illustrating children's books. She had just recently published a book that had the protagonist of a fox. So I thought, okay, if I felt like really fast, maybe I'll learn how to make ears and tails, and I can make my zombie into a fox. So I still have my little guy. Oh. He's right here. He's kind of cute. So that was the very first.
That's amazing.
Felted item I ever made. He doesn't stand very well, so he's kneeling. And I just fell in love with how versatile and creative and spontaneous the medium is. Tapestry, there's so much setup, like it's an investment in time. Needle felting, I can just have some of the supplies in a bag and just whip it out and make something up. That's what I've been enjoying so much during this quarantine, sharing with my students, is just how fun and flexible and creative. Once you learn some of the basic techniques, you can take this anywhere. And I just love sharing that magic.
Right. So would you say that needle felting is now kind of your main art form, or are you still still heavy with the tapestry weaving? What it
I'm
would
I'm fingers in lots of pots.
right, which
I
is
definitely keep
awesome.
my tapestry work going. Also, Celtic cable crochet. I've really fallen in love with that lately. Needle felting has definitely been the medium that is translated best to Zoom. There's materials are easy to package up and send. We can make something fun in a smaller window of time. So it's just a beautiful way to get an in to the process and start working with wool and enjoying.
Can you explain a little bit about the process of needle felting?
Absolutely. So, needle felting is a dry method of felting. It was invented during the Industrial Revolution, so it's not nearly as old as wet felting with soap, water, and agitation, but it's significantly more precise. We're using a very simple tool like this. So, this is a felting needle. The business end is the little sharp end, which is a three-sided needle like a glover's or surgical needle. So, try not to stab yourself. It isn't fun. But there's these tiny little barbs at the end of the needle. And what happens is wool, like your hair, grows as a series of tiny scales. And as those barbs glide back and forth across the wool, it causes those scales to ratchet together. So the process is actually lots of tiny stabbing. It's really therapeutic. And as we stab, we go from something soft and fluffy to either a fun critter or like what I'll be teaching in the program, a style known as painting with wool. You get to create a beautiful picture. It has some dimensionality, sort of embossed, which is very fun. But literally just with different stabbing and different techniques of how much wool or how do we lay it on or do we fold it over or do we twist it first, you get to get a feel for just how amazing stabbing something and making a picture can be.
That is so cool, and I just love the painting with wool. You know, that picture of the sunflower is so cool, and I know you do some other ones with the dollar horse, and you have other critters that you can do. What was the hardest thing that you've ever felted?
Oh my. Well, during the holidays, I tend to get lots and lots of orders for miniature versions of people's dogs. And the same family in Colorado, she likes to collect my work. And she has a Great Pyrenees. And she comes with this gallon bag of Pyrenees fur, which is not hard to get a gallon of fur off of a Great Pyrenees.
Right.
Very voluminously furry.
Yes.
And she wanted a miniature version of Maggie, her Pyrenees, but not like miniature, like a foot tall.
Right.
And I worked on that and I worked on that and I worked on that. So I built the structure with wool, and then I used Maggie's fur that I hand blended with wool to coat this dog. And it looked like a puppy version, like an 8-week-old puppy. And when she opened up the box, Maggie came over and she sniffed it. And she sniffed it. And Chris said, when she started to lick it, then I took it away. And the dog
It was like her little baby, maybe.
Yeah. Did you bring a mini me?
Oh my goodness. That is amazing
And
to think that you could take hair from a dog and intertwine it with the wool to create a look-alike needle felted, dog. That is amazing. And that
yeah.
sounds very hard.
Well, alternate fibers are a lot harder than working with wool. So it's good to get a lot of practice with wool before you start playing with the other fibers.
And you make a lot of little critters, and you had sent in a picture of the mermaid. I think it was a princess and unicorn, which I thought was super cool. What did you make that specifically for somebody?
Sometimes I make things just to see. I wonder what happens if I try I love giving myself a challenge. Designing the classes is one of my most favorite things because I'll go, oh, I want to make a fawn. Now, how would I do that? How do I break that into the components? And the fairy queen and the unicorn, there's an old Scottish ballad called Thomas the Rhymer, and some of the opening lines, a lady bright came riding down, clad in green as silk so fine, and tied about the horse's mane hung 50 silver bells and 9. So that was the inspiration for that.
That is amazing. So you are a singer as well.
Yes, yes. Not a lot of work for that at the moment with COVID, but it'll come back. And
Well, that
I'm
is
a Celtic
amazing.
musician, so I also play harp and guitar and bodhrán and hammered dulcimers. So
You are truly
strings,
a Renaissance woman.
yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the workshop that you're teaching during Create in June. You're teaching the painting with wool, the sunflower, the flower fantasy, which you had showed us earlier. Can you tell us a little bit about specifically what the students can expect to learn in that class?
Absolutely. So the beautiful thing about Flower Fantasy is it's sort of a sampler, but it also creates this visually very pleasing piece. So throughout the process, I'm going to talk you through all the different steps that you can use going forward in any painting with wool style project. We'll learn how to fill in backgrounds. We'll learn how to make thin lines. And we'll learn how to make shapes that have more lift and ones that don't, and how to make something look more textured or blending colors. And what's so fun about that project is that I include enough wool, and the wool is all from our sheep right here on the farm, that you can interpret the design in any way with the color palette. So if these sunflower leaves look like, the sunflower petals look like leaves to you, or the daisies should feel like that is yellow, you can take that and interpret it how you want. It's so fun to see how all the students bring their own little bit to it. I'll also be talking about how you can use this technique on other types of backings. We'll be working with a felt backing. It's just a very kind backing to start with, but other materials that you can work on, as well as how to trim the piece and applique it with different backgrounds. This is as a book cover. I've also put it on pillowcases. I could see how you could cut these out and integrate them onto artful quilts. Absolutely. So
That's what I was going to
the,
say, like how
the fun
you
is
could
endless.
probably incorporate that felting, images like throughout, a quilt. I bet that would look amazing.
Absolutely. Like you could felt little birds and then cut them out and stitch them on. Like it's endless.
Yeah,
Especially if you then
beautiful.
tie in like beadwork. I mean, you can go everywhere.
That's
Mhm.
amazing. Well, just to let everybody know out there, if you are interested in signing up for Laura's class, you can just go to our website, www.quiltfest.com, and go to Create DIY and look up Laura Berlage, and she has her workshop listed, and you can sign up for it there. But that's exciting. I really love that class, and I wish I had time to take it myself. Maybe another
Maybe
time.
someday.
Um, so you mentioned a few of your other hobbies. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? You were just saying that you play the harp, and of course, it's not farming is not your hobby; it's your life. But that maybe that's just something, another thing that you do when you're not felting and working with textile art.
Yeah. So on the farm, I am the bird girl. So the poultry are my happy place. When I was 11, back when I was in Arizona, my best friend in Montessori school and I did this massive research project on birds. And I came home and I said, Mom, I really want a pet bird. Can I have a parakeet or
Mhm.
a cockatiel? I promise I'll take care of it. And and she was like, we're not going to have birds in the house. And I still don't know why she said the next sentence, but the next sentence was, but if we ever move up to the farm, you can have chickens. Okay, instant chicken fan. Instant chicken fan. And that was part of our first summer up here in 99, trying out living what at the time felt like the end of the earth compared to living in Madison. And then we came back up the summer of 2000 and we've stayed ever since. So those first like 27 chickens is now almost 150 laying hens, about 300 meat chickens in the summer, about 40 turkeys in a year, and a couple dozen ducks. So it's more than a hobby, that's for sure. It's a whole lifestyle, but I love how it gets me out in nature. Nature inspires so much of my work, and the connection with the land. It's a lot of work, but it's a very meaningful life.
So other than that, you are musical. You had mentioned, so you're singing and playing the harp. Do you often get a chance to practice those arts?
Well, singing usually has a way of creeping into the class somewhere because I love tying in stories. I'm also a storyteller. Stories and background and history and mythology, where that fits, or when we're making the critters, biology has a way of creeping in. And I do try to play my instruments as much as I can. Definitely a good grounding practice in the stress of COVID. So for me, it all knits together like this tapestry.
Yeah, and that's very true. I mean, I think, all the arts out there have, some sort of crossover to one another. So it's nice that you can incorporate all of the things that you love to do, even in just a class. So that's really great.
Yeah.
Before we leave you today, can you tell us, why, in your opinion, teaching the younger generations the textile arts is important?
Oh, goodness. Well, I know how important it was for me as a youngster to learn that and hands-on, and the time that I spent with older generations doing that. For instance, in Fran's Navajo textiles class, when I got there, it was me and a whole bunch of grandmas. and I wasn't intimidated by it. It was like, wow, everyone's got stories. This is great. And the textile arts are so accessible. They can be so simple. They can be things that you have around the house. You don't have to do a ton of investment necessarily to get started in textile arts. And I think it teaches patience, which is a skill every youngster can benefit from. It also teaches how to think in 3-dimension, which I notice in my students, which ones have had that nurtured in them and which ones have not. It also helps you think about taking a larger concept and breaking it into manageable steps. Okay, we're going to sew our Halloween costume. And to do that, we need to go all the way back to what's it look like when it's flat and the whole process. And there's that delayed reward at the end when you get to say, I made this, I did this, and the pride and the self-esteem that comes with that. All of that is incredibly critical for young people to have access to, especially in a digital age. Having some analog processes in their life is very grounding. It's good.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That's really great insight. And I think a lot of our viewers out there will completely agree with you on that. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. It was so great to talk to you.
Thanks, Diana.
And I can't wait to see you at the show and create.
Keep on creating.
Thanks so much, Laura. Thank you, Laura. Thank you so much for that great interview. We have 2 presentations later this afternoon that are Facebook premieres. Join us with Master Paper Weaver Galen Gibson Cornell at 3:45 and Kathleen Lang, who is our organic dyer, at 5 p.m. They are both teaching workshops at our upcoming Create DIY in June. So if you want to check out their workshops, just go to www.quiltfest.com. And then later this evening, join David Mancuso back at 7 p.m. for the show wrap up. Thank you so much. Have a great day.